Hello, today we'll be demonstrating our code, the NTU University Scream. So let me begin. I'll be acting as a professor in this. Let me add a student. I'll be adding a student with metric 12122121, which is 7 digits as well as 2 letters. I'll add his name as J, and then the student is added to the end of the list. So allow me to enter another student, except his matriculation number is already inside the list, which is John. So it will display a message here that says the student already exists. Now let me try to add a matriculation number which is one more character than it should be, which is 8 numbers, and it will say invalid matric. So now I'll be attempting to add a course. So I will try CZ2005 and add its name as computer graphics. I will say that it has a tutorial, but it does not have lab. I will choose one of our professors, Joseph, here as our course coordinator, and I'll enter the vacancy for the course as 10 with 2 indexes containing 5 each. I'll just put some placeholder numbers for indexes, and the course has been added successfully as is listed at the bottom of the list. Now I will attempt to add another course, database. Now I'll try to put an invalid number here, like 3, and it will say invalid choice. Now I will put this as both having tutorial and lab, as well as choosing Danny here as our coordinator, as well as entering the vacancy for the course as 10 with 2 indexes, 5, and having our placeholder index numbers. Now let's say I try to add a course that already exists. It will list an error message stating that the course already exists. Now I like to start adding my students to courses. I like to add one of my students named Lewis into CZ2003. As you can see, index 123 is already full, while 456 still has places left. So I will try to register him for 456. And student Lewis has been added successfully to index 456 of CZ2003. Now let's say I try to add him again to CZ2003. An error message will pop up stating that student has already registered to CZ2003. Now I shall try to add another student named Travis to CZ2003. And put him into index 456. Now the course is full and no one else can register for the course anymore. So what happens if I try to add one of my students called Sam into CZ2003, which is already full, so there's no vacancy left to register and he has to wait another time to register for the course. Now perhaps, what if I tried to enter Sam into a course that doesn't exist? It will say that no such course has been found. Or perhaps I tried to enter a student who isn't actually registered in our list. It will say that the student is not found. Now I will attempt to check the available slots in the class. So earlier we filled CZ2003 to the max, so now there should be 0 vacancies and it will be displayed correctly. Index 123 and 456 both have 0 vacancies for tutorial. Now instead, let me display CZ2002, and it will display 19 free slots, but because there are no tutorials or labs, it will not display anything here. Now let me try to display a course code that does not exist, like 2009, and it should display correctly. No such course is found. So how about now I check where all my students are in the course. So I will check the student list by lecture, tutorial and lab. I will enter course code 2003 because it's already full, and I will check by lecture, and it should say all 10 students in the order which I've added them in. Next, I will try to do the same thing, except I will search them by tutorial or lab. and there are two indexes, so I can input either one, like 1, 2, 3, and it will display to me the 5 students. Now what happens if I were to have an invalid input? No course will be found for 2009, which does not exist. And if I were to put in 2003 and to print students by a choice that does not exist, it will print out invalid choice. Or if I try to sort them by an index that doesn't exist, no such index is found. Therefore, there is no margin for error. I will now attempt to add the marks for the various courseworks of an existing course. So I will choose CZ2003. The exam weightage is 60%, and there's one component coursework which is called lab, which I will put under 40%. The course assessment component's weightage has been added successfully. Now I shall try to update an existing course, CZ2002 in this case, with an exam weightage of 60, with two components in coursework. One component will be in lab, and that will be 30%, and there will be a quiz, which is 10%. Now 60 plus 30 plus 10 is equals to 100, so the course assessment components is added successfully. But what happens if I tried to enter the exam weightage at 60% into one component coursework like lab, but I labeled the component weightage as 50, where 60 plus 50 is equals to 110. Well, it says that the coursework does not add up to 100%. So let me try another. I will put exam weightage as 100% with no components in coursework, and it will still be added successfully. So now I'll attempt to add the coursework marks but not the exam marks of a student. I'll be adding for my student named James, who is registered in course 2003, which has one component that is lab. So let's say he did well, he did 85% out of 100%, and it will be correctly added to course 2003. Now let's try to add for a course that has two components. I'll be once again adding for my student James, who is registered in CZ2007, and he scored 85 for his quiz, and maybe for his lab he didn't do so well, he did 75. Then the coursework marks for student James have been added successfully for the same course. Now let me try to enter another student named Travis, who is also in CZ2003. I'll add his mark for lab 100, but let's just say I made a mistake and I added 110 marks. It will correctly state that component marks cannot be negative or larger than 100, and therefore it is an invalid input. Now let's say the final exams are over and we have finished marking the papers. Let me add my student John once again, and he has finished his exam for CZ2003. We'll enter his exam mark as, let's say he did well, we'll put him as 80, and they have been added successfully for course CZ2003. Now let's add another one of our students, James. Into 2003, and once again I made a mistake. I put his mark as 110, and it says invalid input because the input cannot be higher than 100 or less. So now I've populated CZ2004 with all my students. I'll enter the course code CZ2004, and it should display all the marks for their course, which is their exam, their quiz, and their lab. It displays them separately as well as a total mark upon 5. Now what if I were to try to add a course code that I have not put anything for? It will state that no student has registered for this course yet, or perhaps I put a invalid input here. It will state that no such course is found. Now I'm going to print the student transcript for one of my students. I'll enter my student John, U123456 and it will correctly display his course CZ2003 and 2004 with the respective marks upon 5 as well as the respective marks for the respective components. Now what if I were to try to enter a random number here that shouldn't exist? It will correctly display no such student is found. Now what would happen if I put a random garbage choice, like 0 for example, in the main interface? It would just reboot the interface once again with absolutely no changes. Now, since I'm done with the interface, I like to save my progress, and then the data has been saved. Now I can save and exit without any problems. So that has been the end of our interface. Scrim is closed, and thank you very much for watching.